Hi viewers, this is Mohan Vamsi. I'm a DWBI consultant. In this video, I'm going to illustrate SCD Type 2 mapping using Informatica. The viewers of this session should have very good understanding on how to create mapping session, workflows, transformations, reusable transformations using Informatica. And also you should have very good understanding on OLTP and OLAP systems. So coming back to the session, in this mapping I'm using TM_customer as my source table. So all the customer information is fed to this source table. So all new customer records and modified customer records are fed to this table. And the next transformation is source qualifier. It's a simple pass-through transformation. There is no property set within this transformation, so it's a simple pass-through. So the next transformation is lookup. So here our target table is the lookup table here, and I'm bringing in all the columns from the source qualifier into the lookup transformation. And the join condition will be customer ID from the source is equal to the customer ID from the lookup table. The one more important property is lookup policy on multiple match, and we need to set that property to use last value. So this property will return the last row which satisfies the join condition. And the next transformation in this mapping is an expression transformation. In this transformation, we will identify the new record and the modified record. So the new record is identified by checking whether the customer key from the lookup table is null or not. So if the customer key from the lookup table is null, that means the record from the TM_customer is a new customer. So here this is null function, if that is true, that will practically tell us that we need to assign a new key value to the new customer. Okay, so this is how we identify whether the incoming record is a new record or a modified record. So the second flag will be the change flag. So using the change flag, we will identify a modified customer record. So for a modified customer record, the customer key should not be null. That is the primary condition we need to check. And then we need to get into the individual columns, and we need to verify which column got changed. So it depends upon the business requirement. So in this case, to simplify the explanation process, I have taken only two columns, house owner flag and the address line. Yes, we have two columns, house owner flag and address line 1. So I'm using these two columns to identify a modified record. Okay, so the first case is we need to identify that the customer key is not null, and then we will compare the house owner flag from the source and the house owner flag from the lookup table, whether is there any change between those house owner flag. If there is a change, then the flag will set to 0, and if there is no change, then the flag will set to 1. So obviously, like we are interested in the changed records, so it should be 0. So the decode condition, what it will do is it will compare between incoming house owner flag from the source and the house owner flag from the lookup table, and the expected comparison result is 0. So it should be different. In the same way, address line 1 from the source is compared with address line 1 from the lookup table. So if the customer changes his address, so he'll be set a flag 0, or if he doesn't change, that's fine, it will be 1. But here we are only looking for modified records, so we are expecting 0 here. So if all these conditions, so coming from here to here, if all the conditions are satisfied, and look at here, we need to clearly observe there's an AND operator and there's an OR operator here. So this condition is a must, and within the D codes, any one of the conditions is satisfied, then the whole condition is set to true. If any of these conditions are not satisfied, then the whole change flag is set to false. Okay. And I would like to point out 4 new columns that I added in this expression transformation. That is current date, and I defaulted it with sysdate, so it will pick up the current date and time. Default date, so I've given a default date as 01/01/1800. So whenever a new record enters, I'm capturing the start date and end date of that record. So the start date will be the current date and time, and the end date will be 01/01/1800. That's a dummy date. In the same way, the new record is identified with a flag, so with a status flag. So for a new record, I'm giving a status flag as 1, and for an old record, I'm giving a status flag as 0. Okay, so using these current date and default date, that is like record start date and end date, and the status flag, we can easily identify which record is a new record and which record is an old record. Okay. The next transformation is router. So in this router transformation, I've taken all the columns from the expression transformation to the router transformation, and in the router transformation I have created 3 different groups. One is new flag, change flag, and default. So new flag will route all the new records, and change flag will route all the modified customer records. So when you look at the new flag records here, so we are interested to route all the new flag records to the target stg underscore customer and stg customer underscore insert, just to differentiate with the other targets. So all the new records will be routed through an update strategy transformation, and the update strategy is set to insert dd underscore insert. Columns are coming from the source. So to give you an example, if you link the path, you can see the record is coming from the source. Okay, and a new customer key is generated, and for that purpose we are using a sequence transformation, and this sequence transformation is a reusable transformation. Okay, and if you look at here, the start date, there will be a status flag. So for a new record, the status flag is always active flag. So active flag is 1, and record enter date will be the sysdate, and the record end date will be the default date 01/01/1800. That's very simple. So that's all about a new flag. The new record. Coming to the modified record. So for the modified record, according to STD type 2, first we need to enter the modified record as a new record. We need to flag it as with current flag, and start date should be updated to the current date, and the end date to the dummy date, and the corresponding old records should be flagged with zeros, and their end date should be updated with current date -1. Okay, so we are kind of tracking the history in this way. So let's first see like how to enter a record for the changed customer or a modified customer. So in this update strategy, property is set to dd_insert because we are inserting a modified customer as a new record with a flag set to with the status flag set to 1, and start date and end date are also modified to show up that this is the current record. So for this purpose, again, we are pulling in all the customer records from the source table. So when you link on both sides, you can see this record is again coming from the source. Okay, because this is a modified record. And if you look at here, the active flag is again 1, and the active flag is connected to the status flag here, and record enter date will be the current date, the sys date, and record end date will be the default date. And for new inserts and the changed insert will remain the same. The only difference is all these records are coming in with a new flag tag, and all the change insert records are coming in with a modified tag. So then the next important stage will be updating the old customer records with inactive flag and end date set to current date -1. So for that purpose, again, we are going to use the change flag group from the router. So here we are going to get the customer key, because we are going to update the old customer records by using the customer key, and we are also going to use inactive flag here. So when you look at an expression transformation here, we are taking the customer key from the lookup table, so, and the inactive flag, which is nothing but 0, and end date set to sysdate -1. So this is the code for that, sysdate -1. So this update strategy property is set to dd_update. So this will write an update statement which will update the customer status flag to 0 and end date to sysdate -1. Okay, so I used reusable sequence generator for inserting the change insert into the staging customer. So the reason why I used reusable transformation is so that the key repetition will not happen. So the sequence generation will take place for the key. Now let's look into the workflow manager. I created a session for the mapping. So if you look at the mapping, after setting up all the connectivity to the target, lookup, and source tables, The important setting we need to check is treat source rows as setting. It should be always data driven. Make sure that truncate target table option on the target is unchecked. So those are three important points to consider. So once you create the session, link it to a workflow, and that was it. Just run the workflow, and you can look at the session execution in the workflow monitor. It got succeeded. So now let's get into the STG customer and look at a record. So let's consider a customer by the name Rocky. So Rocky is already entered twice into the target table STG underscore customer, and we will see why. And also I'll insert a record into the source table, and I'll run the session, and I'll show you how that record is updated into the target. So let's look at this Rocky record. Rocky is a customer, and 23001 is the first record of Rocky, and that record is entered on 2010-05-25, and Rocky used to own a house, and he used to own a house at this address, 44610 Waxpool Road. On 2011-05-25, Rocky changed his address to 44623 Waxpool Road. So our Informatica mapping examined the incoming record, and when it noticed that the incoming record has an address change, so it made the old record flag to 0, and it set the new record flag to 1. And at the same time, it changed the record end date from the default date to sysdate -1. That is 2011-05-25 -1 will be 24. And for the new record, that means for the updated address record, the status flag is set to 1, and the record entry date will be 2011-05-25. That means the record when the modified record got inserted into the OLTP system, that date is recorded into the target. And as this is the updated record, the record end date is set to a default date. So let me show you by modifying Rocky's record. So let me change or update the Rocky's house owner's flag to 0. So if you look at here, this is TM underscore customer table. So I changed the house owner's flag of Rocky to 0 here, and when I run the session, let's examine how the record is inserted into the target. So it got succeeded. So let's go back to the SQL Server database, and let's look at the Rocky record. So if you look at here, now we have 3 records. Okay, so the first record is Rocky's house owner flag is 1, and Rocky used to live at 44610 Waxpool Road. On 2010-05-25, this record got inserted, and he lived at this address till 2011-05-24. And then Rocky changed his address to 44623 Waxpool Road, and he lived there till 2011-05-25 and 2011-06-01. Remember, so today's date is 0602. So 0602 minus 1 will be 0601. So that will be the end date for the old record. And unfortunately, the house owner flag of Rocky is set to 0 now. That is the updated record for Rocky. And Rocky still resides at the same address, but his house owner flag is set to 0 now. And this is the most updated record for Rocky. So the status flag is set to 1, and the record entry date will be 2011-06-02. That's the record entry date, and the record end date is set to the default flag.